Hey you guys, so welcome to week 2 of the Alexander Hamilton lesson. Please remember to continue signing in to your student portal for attendance and to continue doing the 3C Reader Reading Plus lessons each week in the green at 80% or above to get your grade. So to start off with this lesson, we're going to go ahead and start with the standards. So this week, you guys will be able to analyze what is present and absent in both the Alexander Hamilton biography and song that you guys read and annotated last week. Our two standards for the week are RL 1.1, which is when we cite strong and thorough textual evidence. This is always going to be an important standard. But the one that we're going to focus on today is RL 3.7, which is when we analyze the representation of a subject or key scene in two different artistic mediums. Now, artistic mediums are basically songs, written texts like poems, lyrics, stories, or informational text. And so those are written texts. We also have songs, plays, movies, or any type of video. We worked on RL 3.7 when we did our Pyramus and Thisbe text, when we read the Pyramus and Thisbe text and then watched the Pyramus and Thisbe video that The Simpsons created for it. So what we're going to do basically is we're going to analyze how Alexander Hamilton, what they have in common, the biography and the song, and what they have that's different. So in order to do that, we have to analyze how a creator transforms a subject or key scene from one medium to the other. We have to look at both texts and figure out each one's central idea. And you guys did this last week. So you figured out the central idea for both the Alexander Hamilton biography and the Alexander Hamilton lyrics. Once you've figured that out, it'll be easy to see what topic or subject they have in common. Hint, hint, the topic and the subject that both texts have in common for the biography and this song is the life of Alexander Hamilton. What happened throughout his life, his childhood, him growing up, him going to New York, and how he ended up dying, all of that. But that's basically what they have in common. So the life story of Alexander Hamilton. Then you have to analyze the similarities and differences in each account by asking yourself, what details are emphasized in each account? Is each account focusing on the same details? And am I getting different details about the same subject? So ask yourself these questions as you figure out the similarities and the differences of both texts. And what you're going to do this week in this week's assignment is you're going to fill out a chart that basically is asking you to fill out the similarities and the differences of both texts. And we're going to go through it step by step today. I'm going to give you my own example using the lyrics for the Yorktown song that we listened to last week. So in practice, basically, last week we listened to a song called Yorktown in the video lesson, and this week we're going to read a text about the Battle of Yorktown, and then we're going to compare and contrast it. So the Battle of Yorktown, when British General Lord Charles Cornwallis and his army surrendered to General George Washington's American force and its French allies at the Battle of Yorktown on October 9th, 1781, it was more than just a military win. The outcome in Yorktown, Virginia, marked the conclusion of the last major battle of the American Revolution and the start of a new nation's independence. It also cemented Washington's reputation as a great leader and eventual election as first president of the United States. Washington's fame grew to international proportions, having rested on such an impossible victory, according to the Washington Library, interrupting his much-desired Mount Vernon retirement with greater calls to public service. By mid-September 1781, Washington and Rochambeau arrived in Williamsburg, Virginia, 13 miles from the tobacco port of Yorktown, where Cornwallis's men had built a defense of 10 small forts, aka redoubts, with artillery batteries and connecting trenches. In response, Cornwallis asked Clinton for aid, and the general promised him a fleet of 5,000 British soldiers would set sail from New York to Yorktown. With a small force left in New York, about 2,500 Americans and 4,000 French soldiers, facing some 8,000 British troops, began digging their own trenches 800 yards from the Brits and started a nearly week-long artillery assault on the enemy on October 9th. The heavy cannons pounded the British mercilessly, and by October 11th had knocked out most of the British guns. The Army Heritage Center Foundation states, Cornwallis received the unfortunate for him news that Clinton's departure from New York had been delayed. A new parallel trench 400 yards to the British lines was ordered by Washington on October 11th, but completing it would entail taking out the British redoubts number 9 and number 10. The role of Alexander Hamilton. The attack on Redoubt No. 9 would be undertaken by French troops, while the No. 10 siege would be led by Colonel Alexander Hamilton. The founding father wasn't the top pick for Major General Marquis de Lafayette for the job, but Hamilton, who wanted to improve his reputation by proving himself on the battlefield, talked Washington into it. To speed up the siege of the two redoubts, French troops were to take Redoubt No. 9, while Hamilton's men were assigned No. 10. Washington ordered the use of bayonets rather than pounding them slowly into submission with cannon, writes Ron Chernow and Alexander Hamilton. Fun fact, side note, Ron Chernow is the guy who wrote Alexander Hamilton, which is the biography that Alexander Hamilton, the play, is written on. To continue, after nightfall on October 14th, the Allies fired several consecutive shells in the air that brilliantly illuminated the sky, Chernow writes. At that point, Hamilton and his men rallied from their trenches and sprinted across a quarter-mile of field with fixed bayonets. For the sake of the silence, surprise, and soldierly pride, they had unloaded the guns to take the position with bayonets alone. Dodging heavy fire, they let out war whoops that startled their enemies. The whole operation had consumed fewer than 10 minutes. General Cornwallis surrenders. Of his 400 infantrymen, Hamilton lost just 9 in the attack with some 30 wounded, while the 400 French-led troops lost 27 men with 109 wounded. According to Fleming, surrounded by the enemy fire and blocked from receiving aid by the French fleet that had arrived in Chesapeake Bay, Cornwallis was trapped. The successful siege allowed the Allies to complete the second parallel trench that snuffed out the last remains of resistance among the British. In a final effort on October 16th, Cornwallis attempted a nighttime sea evacuation, but he was stopped by a storm. On the morning of October 17th, a British sent forward a red-coated drummer boy followed by an officer waving a white handkerchief to the parapet. All guns fell silent. Cornwallis had surrendered. The end of the Revolutionary War. Following the battle at Yorktown, Cornwallis' surrender, and the British downed 1/3 of its forces, the British Parliament in March 1782 passed a resolution calling for the nation to end the war. "Oh God, it's all over," Prime Minister Frederick North exclaimed upon hearing of the Yorktown surrender, writes Alan Taylor in American Revolutions, A Continental History, 1750 to 1804. The British still had 30,000 men in North America, occupying the seaports of New York, Charlestown, and Savannah, according to Taylor. But the demoralizing loss at Yorktown diminished the British will continue to fight the rebels. On September 3rd, 1783, the Revolutionary War came to an official end with the signing of the Treaty of Paris. All right, so this basically is a text explaining the Battle of Yorktown and what happened and how it led to the end of the Revolutionary War. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to re-listen to the song that we listened to last week. I'm going to add a couple more minutes because it has more details that'll help us understand the central idea of both the text and the song and what they have in common and what they have that's different. So just go ahead and listen.
Good evening. 7 years ago, a young man came.
1781.
Monsieur Hamilton.
Monsieur Lafayette.
In command where you belong.
Are you saying no sweat? We're finally on the field. We've had quite a run.
Immigrants.
We get the job done. So what happens if we win?
I go back to France. I bring freedom to my people if I'm given the chance.
We'll be with you when you do.
Go lead your men.
See you on the other side.
Till we meet again. Let's go.
I am not going away, my shop. Hey, I'm just like my country. I'm not scrappy and hungry, and I'm not going away, my shop. I am not going away, my shop. Till the world turns upside down. Till the world turns upside down. I imagine death so much it feels more like a memory. This is where it gets me. On my feet, the enemy ahead of me. If this is the end of me, at least I have a friend with me. Weapon with my hands, a command, and my men with me. Then I remember my Elias is expecting me. Not only that, my Elias is expecting. So we gotta go, gotta get the job done. Gotta start a new nation, gotta meet my son. Take the bullets out your gun, the bullets out your gun. We move undercover and we move as one. Through the night we have one shot to live another day. We cannot let a stray gunshot give us away. We will fight up close, seize the moment and stay in it. It's either gotta meet the business end of a bayonet. The code word is Rochambeau. Dig me? You have your orders now, go man, go. So the American experiment begins with my friends all scattered to the winds. Lawrence is in South Carolina, redefining bravery. We'll never be free until we end slavery. When we finally drive the British away, Lafayette is there waiting in Chesapeake Bay. How did we know that this plan would work? We had a spy on the inside, that's right.
Tell a spying on the British government. I take the measurements, information, and then I smuggle it to my brother's revolutionary covenant. I'm running with the sons of liberty, and I am loving it. See, that's what happens when you up against the ruffians. We in the somebody's gotta shovel it. Hercules Mulligan. I need no introduction. When you knock me down, I get the back up again.
riding, a young man in a red coat stands on a parapet.
We lower our guns as he frantically waves their white handkerchief.
And just like that, it's over. We tend to our wounded, we count our dead.
Black and white soldiers wonder alike if this really means freedom.
Not yet.
All right, so that's basically a large portion of the song. There's still about a minute left in it, but I'm not going to jump into it just because of timing. Here we have the lyrics of the song, which I clicked on last week. If you guys want to click on it, you guys have the chance in the PowerPoint. But basically, what all of this leads to is a chart that you guys have to fill out. And this chart, I already filled it out based off the Battle of Yorktown text and the Yorktown song. You guys are going to fill it out based on the Alexander Hamilton text and the Alexander Hamilton song. But you guys have these two questions to answer. What is present in both and what is absent in either? Basically, what it's asking in what is present in both is what do both texts have in common? What do they have that's similar? What it's asking in what is absent is what do they have that's different? So what are their similarities and what are their differences? In the Battle of Yorktown text and in the Battle of Yorktown song, both of them talk about Hamilton's role in the Battle of Yorktown. They also talk about how the British surrenders. In the actual text, they mention who surrenders. It was General Cornwallis. In the song, it just mentions that they surrendered, but it's the same thing. And then they both mention how this was an important battle because it was the one that helped them win the war overall. Then what is absent is basically what's different. So what it's asking here is what's in the song that we don't see in the text. So what we see in the song is Lafayette's role during the battle. That we don't see in the text. We also hear about Hercules Mulligan, his role during the battle, and John Lawrence's role during the battle as well. All of these people were not mentioned in the text. Then they also mentioned that Hamilton was going to be a father, also not mentioned in the text. And then here, what is absent in the song that is present in the text is basically what do we see in the text that we don't see in the song. In the text, we see Washington's role in the Battle of Yorktown. Washington is heard in the song, but he doesn't have a role. It doesn't explain how he helped win the war. In the text, it does. The events after the British surrendered. So the song is about how the British surrendered, but it doesn't go into detail about everything after that up until the Treaty of Paris that is mentioned in the text. And then step-by-step details of the battle with dates and times. So they actually mention in the text how many people died, what each side, what they were going to, when they mention that number 9 and number 10, the trenches, all of that. They don't mention that in the Yorktown song. They just mention like a brief overview of what happened in the battle. So that's what's different there. And then finally, we put it all together by answering this question here in a recessed paragraph. So R-E-S-E-S-T. If you guys need help understanding what that means, go into the PowerPoint and it'll have an actual, a step-by-step of what each part of recessed I'm expecting you to know. So what subject is emphasized in the text, the Battle of Yorktown, and the song Yorktown, right? And so what I wrote was the subject that is emphasized in both the text, the Battle of Yorktown, and the song Yorktown is the 1781 battle that led to the victory of the Revolutionary War. That's my R. In the text, the Battle of Yorktown, the author states, the outcome in Yorktown, Virginia marked the conclusion of the last major battle of the American Revolution and the start of a new nation's independence. That's my first E. This explains that this battle that was won wasn't an ordinary battle, but the one that actually determined the victory of the American colonies over the British ones, cementing their independence. My first S. The lyrics of Yorktown state, we escort our men out of Yorktown, they stagger home single file, tens of thousands of people flood the streets, there are screams and church bells ringing, and as our fallen foes retreat, I hear the drinking song they're singing, the world turned upside down. And this is my second E, my second piece of evidence, and it comes from the lyrics. When you're citing lyrics, you need to cite them as if you're citing poetry, which means that you need this little slash here in between each line. Then my second S, these lyrics show that they won the Battle of Yorktown and it turned their whole world upside down, meaning they changed a big part of history by winning this battle and securing their victory over the British. And then finally, my T, my tie it up. Therefore, both texts emphasize the moment the American soldiers beat the British soldiers in the Revolutionary War. And that is how I answer that question. Finally, the last thing that you guys are going to do in the document is you're going to go to this website here. You're going to pick your project topic this week. So you're going to go to this website, and it leads you to an American history website that gives you a bunch of different topics. It's a ton of them. what you guys are going to do is you're going to find a topic that you're interested in, and it has little articles that of what happened during the time. So from the countryside to the city, what happened in American cities, in urban life, the rush of immigrants, corruption runs wild, all of that, right? So this goes from before the United States was even a thing to when basically it starts off where when Columbus like founded America and the Native Americans and all of that, up until the new millennium, meaning early 2000s. And what you guys are going to do is you're going to pick one topic. So I like modern feminism, so I'm going to click modern feminism, and I'm going to read through it. I'm going to make sure that I can think of a creative way to turn this into a project, because remember that you guys are going to read this text and then you're basically going to turn it into something creative, like a poem, a play, a rap song, or a video. So I'm going to read through this. I'm going to make sure that it works. And then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to copy. I'm going to remember it's called Modern Feminism. And when I go here, you guys have this in your thing. You're going to give me your topic title. So my topic title is Modern Feminism. And I'm going to click paste to the website so that I know what your topic is going to be. So that's literally what your handout looks like this week. It's the same thing that we did in the PowerPoint. We have the chart, your recess paragraph that you're going to do here, and then your topic title and your topic link so that I could approve of it. And that's it. That's all you guys are going to do. If you have any other questions, please hit me up through Instagram or Mind. And good luck, you guys.